I want to welcome everybody to the September 4th, 2019 Revere Conservation Commission meeting. If we can stand and salute the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call of members. Heather Legier.
Here.
Ann Raponi.
Here.
Joe Lavalley. Dave Etoff. Here. Deborah Santiano McCatton.
Present.
And Robert Cassidy.
Here.
And I'm Chairman Nick Malayson. Can I get a motion for the approval of minutes from August 7th, 2019?
I'll make
the motion.
Toby makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
And Ann seconds it. I'm going to go out of order real quick. We're going to go to item number 7, public meeting for Temple Street, Revere Water and Sewer Department. There was an existing grassy area that they did some work on that needs to be brought back to the original state. And Don Charmello is here from the Water Department. Don, we can just have name and address for the record real quick.
Don Sherman, Superintendent of the Water and Sewer Department.
Turn that on. Sorry.
Don Sherman, Superintendent of the Water and Sewer Department. I live at 215 Rice Ave.
So we were there Saturday. A few commissioners were with me. So Don, you've seen they put the swaddles out there. They're going to reseed it, and we're going to come up with a game plan in a couple of months to figure out what to do down there to relieve the flooding. But as of right now, DEP will be satisfied with him reseeding it, and we'll be good.
Can I just speak of the problem just for a minute?
You sure can, Don.
So, since August 30th, 2018 to September 4th of 2019, we've received 11 complaints because of flooding issues down there. Now, I know it hasn't really not much to do with the issue, except that, you know, this is the area that we're talking about. So I have many pictures in here of trucks trying to get through, a fire truck trying to get through, an ambulance trying to get through, and people taking pictures of it and telling me how bad it is and a safety issue. So finally, I took it upon myself to try to remedy the situation. Because this picture, I think, speaks for itself. This is the one that really hit me. This is an elderly woman trying to get through that puddle with a baby carriage. This is not made up. This is what we got. This is what we got through, you know, emails. So, you know, my heart was in the right place, but maybe my brain wasn't. I don't know. Or common sense just, you know, doesn't take into play here. But I try to remedy a situation, and you know, obviously, it just kind of backfired on me. But regardless, I mean, my biggest thing is I deal with frag every day. Okay, it's choking our ditches, our stormwater ditches. It's not allowing our city to de-water every 12 hours at every low tide. The water stays there, and it's all because of the frag grows in the water. There's no brackish or salt water that comes up, so the frag just flourishes. Every winter it dies, it turns into compost, it turns into sediment, and it's choking our ditches. So I deal with frag. And frag is an invasive species the last time I looked, but regardless, it's there. It was hanging over the roadway. It was obviously holding back water, and, you know, that's it. So, I mean, so we did put the wattles out. We are going to reseed it with a ryegrass mixture, and I hope that remedies the situation and puts it to bed. But, you know, the flooding, the long-term flooding issue, we'll have to just take up with the, you know, with the highway crew, and to try to figure out some sort of a plan in the future to try to, you know, remediate this road or abandon it, because we're not going to be able to drive through it. And and the other thing is this standing water is standing water. It's all the time. It breeds mosquitoes. It never drained. And, you know, so we do need a long-term solution there, you know, because we just can't just give up the road, you know, so.
I understand. Thank you, Donna. And there is a big flooding problem down there we have to address, so I think if we just, me and you can talk over the next month or so and maybe come up with some sort of a game plan and
I think
figure
in
out
the long
something.
run, I made some people happy, and I made some people,
Yeah.
but
Can't keep everybody happy, but we can try.
anyway.
All right, but, yeah, so just get that reseeded, and then we'll talk over the next month or so and come up with a game plan, something, we'll figure out something for down there.
Okay, I'd like to leave these are two duplicate files for everything, for all the communications going back from 2018 about the flooding issue and, the resident complaints.
Okay, thank you, Don.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Raponi. All right, everybody, good night.
Thanks, Don. Have a good night, buddy.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the hard work you do. I know you had 2 water main breaks this week and a little craziness on the holiday weekend. Thank you for everything you guys
A
do.
little bit of flooding on Monday and probably more now.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Have a good night, Don. I'll talk to you soon. All right, so we're going to go back up to number 4, continuation of a public hearing for Mass DEP File 0610730, 646 Ocean Ave, BC Boston Development, construction of a 5-story mixed-use residential and commercial over 2 level of parking. Perfect, yeah, because he needs to see it in that camera, so that's good right there. Press that button for me.
Good evening. For the record, Tom Daly with Mylon and McBroom. We have offices at Main Street in Springfield, Mass. Point of order is one thing. We did get the certified mailing. Sure. On my desk when I got back after our meeting.
Thank you, sir.
So really, I think we went through a very thorough presentation. We spent some time talking and answering some questions. 2 things I would like to offer to this commission this evening is, one, we have followed up with the state, and they have no comments on our application, so that was good. We followed up on that. The other thing is we talked a little bit about the stormwater operation and maintenance plan. Our SWIP, our Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, does have a detailed operation and maintenance plan, but talking with the commission members, we took that stormwater maintenance plan and actually put it right on the plans too. So it's now found in 2 different locations.
Thank you, sir. Don't trip, be careful.
So it's the same exact text that you find in our full engineering report in our storm, but it's just another place to do it. The commission did talk about maybe an opportunity to even get it on the land records, and we can work with council. Is that if the commission feels so inclined to have that, we can work with basically city council and our council to find a way to get that on the land records. We have no objection to that.
Okay.
With that, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions the commission may
Any
have.
commissioners have any questions? I know that we talked at, Bob OBrien from the city had talked to Revere Beach Design Committee, and I know we looked at the special conditions that gets attached to every order of conditions we give by the city of Revere, so I think we're all covered as far as everything we want.
We had design review last week?
Yeah, that was last week.
And we received approval. from
Yeah,
that
and I know Bob was there, so we're satisfied with everything with the Revere Beach Design.
Okay.
So I guess I'm just looking for a motion to approve this project at 646.
I'll make a motion.
So Heather makes a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Dave Etoff. Do I have a motion to close out the public hearing?
I'll make a motion.
Ann makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Dave. All right, I'll get it signed tonight, and then a couple of days I'll mail it. Do you want me to mail it to you, the order of conditions, or where do you want me to send it to?
Yeah.
I'll get it to you. Perfect. Thank you. What's that? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, Bob. You're right. Thank God I have an attorney here to help me. Attorneys and used car dealers, because that's what I'm in. We're both on the same level, just to let you know. Thank you. Nice meeting you in person, finally. Next item is a public hearing for Mass DEP file. I know I have the number, I just don't have it in front of me. 656 Ocean Ave, 3 levels of parking with 9 levels of residential units above. Hancock and Associates for Post Road Residential. Name and address, please, for the record.
Hi, my name is Katie Cruz. I'm with Hancock Associates. Our address is 185 Center Street in Danvers, Massachusetts. I'm here tonight with Corey Rhodes, who is counsel for the developer on the project. As was mentioned, this project is a residential building. There will be 3 levels of parking with 9 levels of apartments above. It's purely a residential building. There are some amenity spaces within the building. This project is considered a redevelopment under the Massachusetts stormwater standards because there will be a reduction in impervious area, and it includes a stormwater management system that meets the Massachusetts stormwater standards. The building takes up most of the site. There will be a driveway on the north side where cars can enter the 3 levels of parking, which will be connected within. In the back of the building, there is some pedestrian area and a dog walking area. We have provided access around the building for fire department as well as DPW so that they can maintain the existing sewer and drainage system that run along the side and back of the building. There will be water and sewer services that connect to the municipal mains in Ocean Avenue and electric and gas services as well. The stormwater management system will include a system of subsurface chambers, which essentially act as an underground detention basin. They will collect roof water and promote infiltration before the water enters the DCR drainage system in the back of the buildings and eventually runs out to the Eastern County ditch. Stormwater from the only vehicular paved area is the driveway. That will be picked up in catch basins and will be treated via an isolator row, which is essentially a filtration system that can be maintained over time. And that's pretty much it.
Any commissioners have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Actually, time out 1 second. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing? Motion to open the hearing. Motion to open it by David, seconded by? Do I have a second? Toby seconds it? Okay. Sorry. Now you can go, Joe.
Hi.
Sorry.
Well, I'd like to talk to you about a couple of things that we mentioned at the site inspection. Because you're going up, the drainage and everything is going to be basically the same as it was before. It won't really add anything in that respect.
Right, there will actually be a decrease in stormwater runoff from the site because we're adding impervious areas, so water can infiltrate in those, and we're also adding the chamber system, which will allow more water to infiltrate now than it can in the existing condition because the entire site is paved now.
On the other hand, the sewage that's not going to be an issue? I mean, how many more units are you adding than the original development?
So right now, the site is occupied by a DCR maintenance trailer. We'll be adding 230 units, and that will be vetted through DPW. The applicant will pay the standard II fees for that. Then is money that goes towards the sewer infrastructure in the city, which is standard for any project in the city.
And there won't be the need for any increase in the diameter of the sewage pipe and anything that's running along the back, because that pipe has already been increased, I believe, but I don't know if it was increased to handle all of the development that has occurred on Ocean Ave.
Yep, so we've been in preliminary talks with the city engineer, and he hasn't come up with capacity issues as of yet. And I don't foresee that there will be an issue with capacity.
So you did get approval from the city on that?
That kind of comes later in the process. It comes through the building permit process, but we certainly will go through all the proper channels to get approval.
Okay, thank you. Now, the other issue was the parking. I believe you got a waiver on the 1.5?
Right, the zoning board of appeals issued a waiver.
Now, how many parking spaces, if it was 1.5, how many parking spaces would you have there?
345. If it was 1.5, so you'd have to have 1.5 per unit.
This is in the Waterfront Square Overlay District, which has a slightly different parking requirement than the underlying district. But I think 305 were required and 238 are proposed.
So you're cutting it down quite a bit. I mean, that's less than one, isn't it?
If I could speak on that, Attorney Corey Rhodes, I'm with Ambrosio Brown. I represented the applicant for the Zoning Board of Appeals hearing that approved this project and approved the reduction in parking to 238 spaces. Given how close it is to the Wonderland train station and the other amenities my clients can be providing for bike storage and coordination with Uber and things like that, the zoning board felt that it was adequate number of parking to
Yeah, you know,
provide that
I'm
discount.
sorry. I can't see the rationale. I live in the city, I have all my life, and the traffic is horrendous.
I would contend that a lot of that is coming from the North Shore, and my client, as a part of their project, is happy to have their building restricted from any kind of permit parking. No residents will get permit parking on Ocean Ave or anything like that. But this is a development that, in reality, dates back to the early 2000s when Tom Ambrosino was here and created the Waterfront Square area. And this is just the last parcel that's going to be developed there, something that's been envisioned by the city probably dating back to 2002. It's a process that's been going on for a long time, and we're really just reaching the conclusion this is the last lot to be developed on Waterfront Square. I don't think you're really going to be seeing any other buildings going up after this.
So why not, right? Is that what you're saying, basically?
I'm not saying why not. I'm just saying this is kind of history at this point. The zoning board did approve the variance.
Yeah, well, I can't
these lots.
understand that. I wish there was somebody from the zoning board that can give me a rationale on that.
Perhaps I could speak to that.
Please, Bob, yes. Just name and address for the record, please, sir.
My name is Bob O'Brien. I live at 10 Ocean Avenue. I'm Director of Economic Development for the City of Boston, and I participated in all of the permitting process for this project, including the Revere Beach Design Review Board, the Site Plan Review Committee, as well as the Zoning Board of Appeal. There was extensive discussion in the Zoning Board of Appeal about the appropriate level of parking that would be required. And what was approved by the Zoning Board of Appeal was based on a traffic study that was actually done by the proponent. But relevant to this was the actual parking experience for other projects in that area. Ocean 650, as an example, has a parking ratio of 1.0. The Beach House, which built to the full zoning specifications, has literally hundreds of spaces empty. I live at the other end of Ocean Avenue. My parking lot is half empty most of the time. So the zoning variance was based on the actual experience of adjacent properties. I would also say that the utilization of public transit for those projects is approaching 60%. So even the people that own vehicles in those garages do not use them to commute to work. Most people take the Blue Line, which is why they are living there. So the decision about what amount of parking was appropriate and required was a very thoughtful one by the Zoning Board of Appeal. It was supported explicitly by Ward Councilor Ira Novoselsky, who has also supported all of the other variances related to that, because in effect, based on actual usage, we are overzoned for parking. It's an expensive investment that is only worthwhile if it is being used. So it was a very thoughtful and considered opinion by the Zoning Board of Appeal, I can assure you. It was also done with the support of the city based on experience. So I might also add that the city supports this project in no small part because the developer has been very forthcoming in working with us from the outset about the design of this project. And you will note that this is the largest, the tallest project of all of the waterfront, the 6 waterfront square projects. That was done by design to make an architectural statement, and I must say that the Revere Beach Design Review Committee responded very favorably to that. The chairman, Rosalie Vincent in particular, was very supportive of that additional height. I will also say, with regard to your very reasonable questions, that the issue of sewer capacity has already been addressed on a preliminary basis by the Site Plan Review Committee. It has not yet finally been approved, but the city engineer, who is a member of that committee, is extremely focused on sewer capacity issues and has already determined that this will not exceed capacity. So they are very good questions, but the answers to them already have been addressed on a preliminary basis and will finally be addressed as the Site Plan Review Committee completes its work in the next weeks. So they are very appropriate questions, but believe me, they have been asked and I think satisfactorily answered to date.
Anything else, Joe?
Well, it's all well and good, but it's still, as a resident of the city, I mean, I'm looking at things that really are not apropos for the Conservation Commission, but, I was on the board, I was on the Zoning Commission back in the 80s when we thought even 1.5 wasn't even good. And from a lot of political pressure, we made it 1.5, but it seems like everybody in the city that comes to develop gets a waiver on the 1.5.
Well, let me just
I can't remember the last project that was 1.5.
Well, first of all,
the ones you just mentioned, they all got waivers, didn't they?
Yeah, first of all, I
Did
would
they?
mention
Would you answer that, please?
the other waterfront square projects?
Yes.
Yes, correct.
So they all got waivers.
Yeah, with the exception of the Ocean, which is not in Waterfront Square, but the Beach Club at the other end of the boulevard.
Yeah, the beach house is to spec.
They built to spec, and frankly, they don't know what to do with well over 100 parking spaces, essentially, that they overbuilt. I also live in the city. I live on Ocean Avenue. I'm very well aware of the traffic. I would say, just to confirm what Corey has said, by license plate count, 90% of the traffic in that area, and I'm talking specifically about the intersection of Revere Street and Revere Beach Boulevard, has origins and destinations outside of Revere. That means it's people commuting from the North Shore to Boston. Our local development really has very little adverse impact on traffic because most of the people in the new developments do not drive their vehicles to work. And I would also remember this. The Waterfront Square replaced 9 acres of parking lots. I can assure you that that was a great attractor of regional traffic into Revere. Just as this project replaces a lot of impervious area, it also replaces a lot of regional traffic coming into Revere to get on Wonderland to go into town. So I think it's actually an improvement in the traffic from what it was. And I've lived here for many years. I see that traffic right in front of my house every day, and it is not coming from either Waterfront Square or any of the Ocean Avenue developers, including mine. Mine is a condominium, but I mean, I'm fairly familiar with that issue. So I appreciate your concern, and I think it's an understandable one, but I don't think, in fact, that this project or any of the others have contributed to an adverse impact on local traffic, because regional traffic is our problem, not local traffic. Regional traffic has an impact on local traffic, but it's not generated locally. We can disagree about that, but that's based on some.
Well, I think we all.
I do. I'm sorry. I just can't. Like I said, as a resident, using those. Let me tell you something. I've said this here before. I avoid going through Revere. If I have to get to the other end, I go all the way through Lynn. And that's not because I want to, but there's no place to go. And I use Ocean Ave
Yeah.
every day, every day.
I don't doubt what you say. What I'm saying
And you
is-
live in the city, so are you telling me, you're telling me the traffic's what, going to be better now?
No,
for
I'm
all
saying
this?
the traffic problem and congestion that we have is primarily because of commuting traffic through the city, not development in the city.
Not a commuter.
And we have actually researched and documented that, but I realize the public perception can frequently be different. When you get into a traffic jam, they all look the same.
I just think it's definitely a regional issue. It's traffic that's coming from out of the city, but looking at it from a resident and it's no secret as a candidate for city council, we should have taken a couple of steps back and let's get the state involved and plan this traffic infrastructure. We're kind of doing a couple of steps ahead that we should have waited for. And
I will say this, we have made a lot of specific suggestions for improvement of regional traffic. We have to convince DOT and DCR to embrace those
which
recommendations.
is, talking to them is like talking to this.
Well, I won't say that for the record, but
I will.
What I will say is, to the extent that we can control the traffic on Revere streets and sidewalks, we are able, through the Traffic Commission and
Well,
otherwise, to implement.
that's why I brought this up. Now, we can talk about how terrible the state is,
I'm not
metropolitan
saying-
Boston, the federal government, and all the way, everybody points to everybody else and says there's nothing we can do. The one thing that the city could have done was kept the original parking, which might not have allowed them to even do that project for now 13 stories instead of the 5. That is one of the things that this city could have done.
Well,
And they chose not to. So you're pointing the finger at everybody else and saying there's nothing we can do.
We're not pointing the finger at anybody. We're trying to work in conjunction with the Commonwealth and DCR to improve the situation. But it's a process that's not completely within our control, and it takes time. It's an iterative process. I will say that the Zoning Board of Appeal takes these matters very seriously,
afraid to ask.
discusses them in great detail, and I think you can have confidence that their vote, which you may not agree with, was at least well-informed. As long as I'm here, let me just say, with
Sure,
regard
go
to
ahead.
this matter, the city very much supports your approval of the petition before you. It will be the next step in the permitting process. This will be the last element of the Waterfront Square project, which dates back, as has
I
been
was
said,
just going to say, which dates back to
Mayor
Ambrosino.
and
Yep.
before, and I think it's a good project in its own right. The complex is a good one. It's contributing significant tax revenues to the city, and I don't think it's having an adverse impact on either traffic or our school department. We track both of those things closely. So for all of those reasons, some of which are within your purview, some of which are not, we would recommend your favorable approval of this petition.
Thank you, Bob.
Mr. Chairman, and thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more question for the other gentleman.
Sure. Sure.
What about a shade study now? Is that something that you people have done or intend to do?
I don't believe we've done a shade study. That was not one of the components of the zoning board.
Now, it has been for other projects on the beach. That's why I'm asking you that.
It was not a requirement for this project. As far as I know, it's not a formal requirement under the ordinance. It would be one that may be requested by the zoning board. This project dealt with other aspects.
As a matter of fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Chairman, there was a shade study done when we did the project at the Shipwreck Lounge. Now,
believe there
granted,
was,
that was
yes.
on the Boulevard side. This is on the Ocean Ave side, but going up
Yeah.
that high, I'm wondering if the state or
Well,
the DEP has anything to do
like
with that.
Attorney Rhodes said, it's not a requirement. They're having these studies is something that we can, that the zoning board can suggest, but it was probably suggested for the shipwreck, but it's not a requirement to be done. Unfortunately, it's not something that's in the ordinance to make sure it gets done. And I'm sure that thousands of dollars that they spent already, that they've already got, they know that they're not going to be too tall for the airport and all that stuff.
It's been quite a process, a public process, something that's been dating back to, I think, September, October, November last year.
Can
is
we
when
get a
this got
shade
started.
study done? Can we?
I would have to look into it for my client. I know, with all due respect, I would say it's out of the purview of this board.
Correct.
And how
And
that
you're right,
affects
it
the
is.
environment. It's something where My client really has put a lot of effort into this. The original proposal was a much smaller building. It was a less dense building, but it was something that they coordinated with the city that they thought this could be an opportunity to really put a project, a memorable project for Waterfront Square, something to cap it off, really be an attraction for the beach, really be something that can be marketed, can get people back to using the public beach even more. We're hoping to have that kind of public-private partnership to make that happen, and something that my client worked closely and thoughtfully designed this to meet those goals.
Excuse me just a minute. There's no commercial element to this whatsoever?
There was discussion, I know there's some discussion about trying to have a coffee shop in there, but given that my understanding, it would actually have to be on the second floor due to potential flooding issues that come off the ocean. Most tenants, most coffee shop owners hate the idea of being away from that foot traffic. You know, somebody'd have to come in and go upstairs to get to the coffee shop. So it's something they're discussing at this point. They do in some of their other, they have a facility in Everett that they just got off the ground, has a coffee shop. It's very nice. They would like to do it here. Still working on it though.
Through the chairman?
Sure.
I might ask, I don't necessarily think that it would not be an environmental or conservation issue shading the beach. That was the issue after Carabetta's properties. I did think there was a height restriction. It certainly will affect the beach if you're casting a shadow on the beach. And I do think that is something we should look at.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, I can even recall that they actually went from a certain month to a certain month, and for some reason I remember 4 o'clock being some kind of a reference point to if the building would block the
Beach?
the beach, the sun on the beach at 4 o'clock, 4 p.m. I don't remember the exact, but I do remember that study being done. And that was one of the things that they looked at.
Yeah, I think I can bring this to the attention of the Site Plan Review Board. I'm sure they can make an informal request for some sort of a shadow study, which can be reported back to you. I would say this, Ocean Avenue is considerably lower than Revere Beach Boulevard, and of course it's set farther back from the beach. So my expectation is that the shadows on the beach, which would only occur at the end of the day, since most of the shadows fall away from the beach during the day, will probably not be adverse. But I think we could work through site plan review for an informal shadow study,
Yeah, I'd like
which
to
we
do
could
that,
report
yeah.
back to you. On the boulevard side, it's much more immediate, and the buildings, in effect, are about a story higher just to begin with, because they are
Yeah,
on
the way
a
the pitch
higher
is
level
down,
of the
yeah.
boulevard. But we'll do that. I think it's a reasonable question.
Thank you, Bob.
I would just like to mention, to bring this back to an environmental standpoint, the only resource area that this project site is in is land subject to coastal storm flowage, which DEP does not have performance standards for. Even still, we're complying with the Massachusetts stormwater standards as a redevelopment. So I think in terms of DEP and in terms of the wetlands bylaw, this project is in compliance.
And you're right. From what we can do and what you guys are doing conservation-wise and DEP standards, you guys are doing everything right. It's hard for us to separate commissioner and as a resident of the city of Revere. And so from conservation-wise, you guys are doing everything right. I think all of our other issues is something that's more of from a resident factor that there's too many apartments have gone up over the last 4 years, which is not even a current administration's fault. It's something that started 20 years ago that's just being followed up now. From conservation point of view, guys, they're doing everything right. And as far as the shadow study, it's not a requirement. We can have it recommended in site plan review, and hopefully they can get it done for us and we can get the outcome of it, the results of it, but it's not something they're required to do for this project. So what's the will of the commission? Do I have a motion to approve the order of conditions?
I'll make a motion. I feel like they have done everything that they can to mitigate the stormwater management down there, so I will make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? No. Toby's on the record as saying no. Joe is on the record as no as well. It's still voted in, so I'll get you guys the order of conditions within the next couple of days. I think DEP issued a file number already, I'm not sure. Was it you that emailed me earlier? I think they have it, so I'll get it all taken care of and get you guys a copy of it. All right, thank you. All right, so next is public hearing for Mass DEP file 0610722 for Eastern County Ditch. A request to amend the order of conditions that was issued on December 5th, 2018, then amended on June 6, 2019, Hancock and Associates. Katie, you're up again. Oh, time out 1 second. I need a motion to close out the public hearing for 656 Ocean Avenue.
I make a motion to do so.
And close. I'll second it. Seconded by Toby Cassidy. Thank you. Katie, go ahead. I'm sorry. Do I have a motion to open this public hearing?
I'll make a motion to.
Heather opened. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by David. All right. Katie Cruz, go ahead, please.
Okay. So I'm here on behalf of the applicant for the Eastern County Ditch Sediment Removal Project to request an amendment to the order of conditions which was issued in December of 2018. And then I know that since then there was an administrative approval of some minor plan changes that did not affect the design of the sediment removal project for the Eastern County Ditch. The request is to change 5 of the conditions, and this request came through the Massachusetts Electric Company, which owns a portion of the Eastern County Ditch. And the gist of their request is to put the conditions on the applicant rather than them as the owner.
We have any commissioners have any questions? This is an order of conditions we already gave. They're just making a change. Bob, you want to speak?
Yes, again, Bob O'Brien, 10 Ocean Avenue, Director of Economic Development. This involves the long-awaited excavation of the Eastern County Ditch, which will restore it to flow and become a more functional part of our drainage system. This was a modification of the original project mitigation for the Waterfront Square project. We have waited for this for years, arguably decades. It turned out to be a much more complicated process because the Army Corps was involved, the MBTA was involved, NGRID was involved, etc. This is the final requirement of NGRID. They were concerned that the order of conditions implied that they would have some responsibility for maintaining the Eastern County Ditch. The city is more than happy to accept that responsibility. It was never meant to be delegated to NGRID, and this just clarifies that. Other than that, it just allows the project to proceed at long last. If everything works well, we hope that we can get
So basically just changing who's responsible for it.
Yeah, I mean, it never did change it, but the language they thought might have implied a responsibility of theirs.
Okay.
It's not something we ever intended. So it's a ministerial and sort of bureaucratic modification, but no substantive change. And hopefully it will allow this to proceed this month. If that's the case, we hope it will take about 10 weeks and will restore the Eastern County Ditch to full flow for the full 2,600 feet of its length, which is quite remarkable. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. So basically, the plan is all the same. They're just changing basically who's responsible and verbiage is who's not responsible. So do we have a motion to approve the amendment?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Seconded first by Robert, seconded by Heather. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. I have a motion to close out the public hearing.
Make a motion.
Ann makes a motion. I have a second.
I'll second.
Seconded by David. Okay. Katie, same thing. I'll get that, once I get that amendment done, I'll mail it to you. I'll get it out in the mail to you, all right? All right, last on the list is 48 and 50 Sherman Street. You guys want to come up? So we were out at this address last month, if you guys remember, to give them a recommendation for the driveway, what to do. They didn't really get a contractor to do it. He was trying to do it on his own, so I stopped him. So I'm going to give him a recommendation for some contractors to use, a few, 4 or 5 contractors that I think will do it properly. They were out there on a Sunday cutting the driveway at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I got neighbors calling me up in arms over it. So I don't necessarily have a contractor, so I'm going to get him a list of 3 or 4 people to call and just get the drainage done properly, not just cutting the asphalt away a couple inches. I want it to go down 5 or 6 inches, 7, 8 inches, and put something in there, some sort of a French drain system or something to help out the rest of the street and the neighbors. So I talked to them before the meeting, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give them a list tomorrow, some recommendations for some contractors to use, and still keep the same recommendation we gave them. I just want someone that knows what they're doing to cut it. I don't want just anybody to do it. I want to get a licensed contractor down there that knows what they're doing. All right?
Yeah, Nick, because we came to a Paul at DPW, or I mean Department of Water, and
Yeah.
he, after we do the cut, he said that we just give it for now and don't touch further, and you recommend that we have to hire
Here's what I told you
contractor.
earlier. DPW is not requiring you to have a permit. You don't have to have one
Okay,
permit.
yeah.
But because you're in a flood zone and so close to the creek, I'm requiring you to have something.
Okay,
So conservate, because you're in the flood zone and near the creek, you need to do it the right way. And I'm trying to handle this on a local level as us doing it, so you don't spend a lot of money. If I get Mass DEP involved, you guys are in a lot of trouble, and I don't want to do that. Trying not to do that. I want you guys to get along with your neighbors, but I want your driveway fixed right. I don't care how it was before. All I know, how the street always, there's a flooding problem down on that street to begin with. You guys had a gravel driveway before. You just made it into a regular asphalt driveway and pitched it out to the street and towards everyone else's property. That's illegal to do in a flood zone. So if Paul Agenzio from DEP does not require a permit, I'm requiring it. I want it done the right way.
so if you suggest us the licensed contractor?
I don't have anyone that I use in particular, but I'll get a few recommendations for you, and I'll give you the list, and you can call and get some prices and some estimates.
So do they need the license permit, or how? So would you suggest the way the contractor do, or?
Yeah, well, if whoever you end up hiring as a contractor, I'll go and meet with them and tell them what I want there. Tell them what we need to have. The problem is you guys did it on a Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, when you're not even supposed to do anywhere. You're not even supposed to bang a hammer at 9 o'clock. You guys have a demo saw at 9 o'clock on a Sunday.
But when
And you had your tenant cutting the driveway with your dad. So someone needs to do it that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, he actually the tenant, but also a construction worker.
Yeah.
That's why.
He's a construction worker, but is he an asphalt construction worker that does drainage for a living?
No, because you say no license and you can do
Well, I
on
didn't
your
say
own,
no
that's
license.
why.
I says you didn't need an order of conditions. I gave him a recommendation to make it an easy fix. I can be mean about it and say I'm calling DEP and have them handle it, but it's going to cost you thousands of dollars to have them do it. I'm trying to do this easily for you guys to get it fixed and keep everybody happy.
Okay.
All right? I'll call you tomorrow with a list of recommendations who I suggest you should use. You know what I mean? You don't have to use them. You can get anybody you want to use. Doesn't necessarily have to be someone I suggest. Use anybody you want.
A licensed
So
contractor.
as
gotta be-
licensed,
I just want it to be a licensed contractor that does that for a living. I don't want it to just be anybody.
Okay, so,
Okay.
How do I make sure that if, for example, after we do per the licensed contractor and the neighbors still complain, so what would you do in this situation?
If you get it done by a licensed contractor and the drainage is put how I want it, I don't care what the neighbor says. You did what I've asked for.
Okay, so that's why I don't want complain.
Yeah, no,
you know?
you guys gotta get along. You guys live next to each other, and I want you to get along. But just do it the right way this time, and let's not have any issues. You know what I mean? The way it was being done on that Sunday, you guys were just gonna cut up the asphalt and fill it with gravel. That isn't what I want. I want it to go down 7 or 8 inches, put in some sort of a French drain system, and then the gravel over it. You know what I mean? So there's a way to do it. And I thought when I was there on the Saturday with everybody, that's how we explained it to the gentleman that was there that I was talking to. But there was some miscommunication somewhere. But
Yeah.
You can hire anybody you want, I'll give you some recommendations, but I just want it done by a licensed contractor that knows what they're doing.
So basically, as long as license should be okay. So can you send kind of through the email?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you call and then...
Yeah, call me tomorrow and leave me a message with your email. I'll write it down tonight for me, your email address.
Okay.
And I'll send you some recommendations on who I think you should use, but you don't have to use my recommendation, use anybody you want.
Okay.
I just want it done by a licensed contractor, okay?
And when I have the license contractor, should this person contact you to...
You can have them
to get-
contact me and I'll meet them down there and tell them what I want.
Okay.
All right?
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes all of our, what's the matter? That concludes our Conservation Commission meeting tonight. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Ann makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Toby. All righty, that's it. Commission meeting's over. Thank you.